Hi, I'm Jen, this is Animation Complex, and welcome to what is more or less a typical work week for me. Now, what isn't typical here though is that my Monday started off with really heavy rain. I've lived in LA for 6 months now, and while I'm happy I dodged winter in New York, I really miss the rain. Mondays are a meeting-heavy day for me, so I scramble for a quick breakfast. In this case, some hard-boiled eggs, which I'm filling the pot up for here. I work at Warner Brothers in animation development and production, but more on that in a second. In the meantime, I have to take care of some plants, apparently, and then I head in for a few long meetings. So I work across the 3 animation studios at the company: Warner Brothers Animation, Cartoon Network Studios, and Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe. I'm a creative PA there, and I help out the studio president of all 3 studios, managing all of the material they have to review and approve and give notes and opinions on. And sometimes I give notes and opinions on things too, which is very exciting for me. So I field a lot of emails with scripts and pitch decks to read, and a lot of animatics and work in progress episodes to watch, logos to look at, art direction exploration, music and voice samples, you name it, we deal with it. I wanted to work in animation development for a while now, and so I feel really lucky that I was given a shot at WB and I get to work across 3 really different, really distinct studios all at the same time. On Tuesday, I went into Cartoon Network. I was bribed with food and human interaction. Look at this little pancake machine go. It was totally voluntary. Their COVID policies and overall security made me feel pretty safe, so I went in for the day. Plus, my current office at Cartoon Network has an animation table with a light box, which was fantastic to discover. I did run out for a solo lunch though because my schedule was pretty tight. The Cartoon Network building is in downtown Burbank anyway though, so it's pretty close to a lot of food places, which is nice. After lunch, I stopped by the arcade room after learning there was an arcade room, but I continued to work as usual, emails, meetings, handling and prioritizing content. I haven't really had a chance to fully explore the whole studio though. After work, I went to the climbing gym. I've been climbing on and off since like 2015, but I hadn't gone at all during the pandemic for safety reasons, and now I'm 2 months into my latest stint and I'm climbing 5'9" and slowly getting back in shape. I also missed petting the dogs people bring into the gym, so the dogs are a huge draw as well. On Wednesday, I went into Warner Brothers Animation, also optional and safe and secure, and I was also bribed by food and human interaction. I love this studio too because there's so many display cases and artwork on all of the walls here, and I can't wait to bring people in to visit. And yes, my offices are both very bland. I haven't been into the studios very much, hence them having no personality at all. So, something I also do is write coverage for writing samples that were sent. Writing coverage is tricky because you're evaluating the story for sure, but you're also evaluating the writing itself. You know, the dialogue, how they set up a scene, establish character, maintain character, pace their story, ramp up action, introduce and resolve conflict, world building, etc. Even if you don't like a story, do you like how it's told? Do you like the writing? Are they funny? Are they good at character, but their narrative is weak? Are they at the level we need them to be? Can we place them somewhere? A lot to think about. Also, I want to steal all the toys in the studio. It's interesting too because there's a lot of Hanna-Barbera art and memorabilia at the WBA building, as well as Warner Brothers stuff, obviously. Cartoon Network used to be a division of Hanna-Barbera, so some earlier shows like Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab were some of the last shows made by Hanna-Barbera, which is owned by Warner Brothers. And Hanna-Barbera Studios Europe was a recent rebrand of Cartoon Network Europe to bring the Hanna-Barbera namesake back. I'm doing a really bad job of summarizing this legacy and history, but it's a really interesting part of animation history in the US, and it's really fun being a small part of that. Okay, so I'm definitely reading a screenplay or a show bible here. Knowing I'm reading someone's sample or a story that they've been developing and is probably really personal to them, I do not take that lightly. This is people's careers and dreams and livelihoods, and it's just a privilege to get to read so much stuff. After work, my husband and I unwind and we played the remastered Spyro games. He'd never played them somehow. Thursday, I went back to working at home. I like meetings where I get to talk about cartoons. I'm clearly quite animated in this clip, right? But it's true. I love talking about movies and shows and story and discussing why I liked something or didn't like something about it, or how I'd have done it, or how I would have tried to fix what I didn't like. And that was all stuff I liked doing on my own. as a youth, and definitely like was refined in college, taking film classes and animation classes and writing and lit classes, and just having peers who like that sort of thing too. And a lot of those skills definitely grew and expanded for me more when I worked in story at Blue Sky Studios, and all the opportunities and talented people I was surrounded by when I was in that department. I have a lot of mixed feelings about my time at the studio, but being in story is second only to meeting my husband at that studio, so it's pretty high praise. Thursdays I also have therapy, which is very nice. I go weekly, and I usually go climbing on Thursdays as well. Climbing takes up most of the night when we go too, but we still like cook and eat most of our meals at home. I just don't see a point in filming a lot of that stuff. There's a lot of like vlogging lifestyle stuff that I'm like, nobody needs to see this. Friday started nice and slow. I'm pretty sure my husband is showing me the trailer, maybe for Netflix's The Sea Beast here. As I eat, I start reading some news about an old manga series I loved that's getting a re-release. I've always loved anime and manga, and part of our umbrella is anime production and programming for Adult Swim and Toonami and other places, which is definitely something I'm excited to like dig into more in the future. A project I'm super excited about at the studio is an animated Lord of the Rings feature that we're making with a studio in Japan. There's a lot of really impressive names tied to it, and everything I've seen of it is like, it's like amazing. I love Lord of the Rings too, and I love anime, so what's not to like? Getting to sit in on pitches and things also makes me want to revisit books I have on writing and story, and the guy who wrote this book actually came and did a talk when I worked in Blue Sky, and he signed my copy. Today during lunch, I dragged my husband to an indie bookstore, and the first section we always visit is the comics and manga section, where he was still upset about the passing of Berserk's author Kentaro Miura, understandably so, and then I dragged us off to the film section. I have this Disney book, and it is gorgeous. It's heavy as hell. It's amazing quality. Frankly, for most of these, I need to see if my library has them first, because art books and film books are not cheap. I already have these two Miyazaki books, the ones that he wrote, but not this one. I've been meaning to get the Parasite storyboard book. There's just so many art books. I'm so behind in collecting any. I heard this editing book was good. This book is from a great podcast that I listen to. Ooh, I was sent an advanced reader copy of this one. I reviewed, I'll have the link below. It was really good. So this was one of those days where we skipped a proper meal and just got boba. Sometimes it just happens for us. That is like the one thing we'll kind of splurge on, is good boba. When we got home, I wanted to revisit another book on story I have. When I was at Blue Sky, they actually sent me to this author's story class. I'm glad they did, because it is hella expensive. I would have never pulled the trigger myself, but they sent me, and I got that book signed too, so thanks, Blue Sky. Here, I'm just making some notes in my planner for, meeting stuff that I have to worry about for next week. I also had to quickly draw out the next week's pages so I could write more info there. I like doing a really simple bullet journal so I don't waste pages on like slower weeks, and I can customize a little bit more, but I also really dislike really like overly produced bullet journals. For me, they kind of give me personally a false sense of accomplishment and kind of make me focus on the wrong things. So the most I really let myself do is use like colored pencils, nothing really fancy. So here I'm starting to read a feature script I was asked to give notes on before my husband distracts me about video game development. We're both really interested in learning Unreal Engine, so we've been discussing making a game together because it's been a couple years since we've collaborated on a creative project together, and we both want to, learn a couple new things. I go back to reading here. To be honest, if I had to pick between TV and feature, I love feature more. So I love any chance I get to work with the people who work on the feature content across the studios. As I read, I'm making quick notes to elaborate on later when I type out my notes. I've read the script a couple times as I want to make sure I don't miss anything and my notes are really like tight and useful. So then I type them up, and in this case, I bumped on, some small character stuff, and there were a few key points where I felt like the characters could be driving the plot a lot more versus like having things happen to them. So I suggested like moments where I think they could change things or have more agency as characters, and I try to be mindful of like the production, and I don't, you're not trying to like add a bunch more scenes or anything like that. And that's kind of it. Even though I have a job I love and I find really exciting, the day-to-day is like still a pretty standard job, which is very much a privilege in itself. I like it because it doesn't stress me out and I legitimately enjoy it. So thank you for humoring me while I experiment with this type of video. If you like this, check out another video or visit animationcomplex.com, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!